not this weekend, but the past weekend, I ran out of meat. Now, leading up to the meet, I did not set myself up for success, okay? My intended rest day, instead of resting, I went and played a flag football game, which led me to be so sore the next day that I couldn't even demonstrate the set position and blocks because my quads were cramping up. So going into the meet, I was thinking, I'm definitely not in a great place to run a super fast time, but I'm still gonna go out there as long as I feel like I'm not gonna get injured. I'm gonna go out there and run just to expose myself to some competition. Whatever times I run or what I run, and whatever it will be, and I'll move on from that and go on to the next week of training. So I get to Saturday, it's cold outside, it's probably 50 degrees, it's about to start raining. I'm warming up for my 60. For whatever reason, I didn't fully warm up. I did a long enough warm up, but I didn't hit the intensity level that I need in my warm up to run my fastest. I know from timing a bunch of sprints over the past years with the free lap that I need a certain number of sprints before I can run all out. But leading into the 60, I didn't do that. So here we have, I'm sore from a football game, I'm cold because it's 50 degrees outside and about to rain, I'm not fully warmed up. So what do you expect the result of that 60 would be? Probably not very good. And sure enough, it wasn't very good. I ran the slowest 60 I've ever run in competition. I ran 7:24. Now, if you end up in that situation where you run a time that's much slower than you've ever run in competition, it's very easy to get emotionally attached to that outcome, and then all of a sudden now your mindset is like, oh, I'm slow, or you identify with that time, oh, I'm a 7:20 runner. And if you get attached to that outcome that you don't like, the outcome of running slower than you thought you could, it's very easy for that to then stick with you and negatively affect your next race or your next week of training or your next competition. But instead of getting attached to that outcome that I wasn't so happy about, I looked at the time, I laughed to myself, and I was like, okay, I know that that doesn't represent my ability because I've run faster than that countless times. I ran faster than that this past week. So I know that that time doesn't dictate what I'm capable of. It's a snapshot of a moment in time that has various factors leading into that time. When you have an outcome that you aren't super happy with, you got to look at it objectively and not get emotionally attached to it. So after that, I thought, okay, I'm just going to shake it off. I got to run a 150 here in about 45 minutes. And in between the 60 and the 150, all I really thought about was, okay, I want to get out relaxed but fast. So I don't want to grind through the start, because if you start a race tense, you're going to finish the race tense, and then you're going to run slow. If you start the race relaxed, you can always try to speed up a little bit, but because it's a 150, because it's longer than 100, I want to start, 98%, but running very fast, but relaxed. Once I come off the turn, send it for that middle 50, and then once I get to the 100-meter mark, just kind of coast into the finish, not by reducing the intensity level of the sprint, but just by relaxing through the finish, making sure my frequency stays at a good level, make sure my range of motion stays, in full ranges of motion, that I'm not tightening up, and don't try to force the speed. If you force the speed at the end of a 150, at the end of a 100, or at the end of a 200, you're going to slow down, because once you've reached maximal velocity, all we can do from that point is minimize deceleration. And the best way to minimize deceleration is to stay relaxed, keep putting your foot down, and maintain your range of motion. So I set my mind right. I focused on, okay, this is what I want to focus on for this race. Get out relaxed, send it for the middle 50, and then relax through the finish and maintain your technique. Set, go. All right, coming out of the blocks. Well, feel pretty relaxed. All right, coming off the turn. All right, time to keep accelerating, keep building. All right, I'm in the middle 50. All right, let's put the burners on. Let's go, let's go, let's go. All right, I'm in the middle of the straightaway. Now it's time to let the frequency happen. Let my leg cycle and arm cycle continue, but don't fight yourself. Just let the movement happen. Full range of motion, keep your frequency, let the movement happen. Get through the line, finish in front of everybody else. I won the meet for the 150. They didn't put the times up right away, but eventually, later in the day, I found out that I ran 15:94. Last year, I ran 16:32. So that's a .38 personal best in the rain, in the cold, being sore, after running a terrible 60. That only happens. You only PR in bad conditions if your mind is right. If you have your mind in a good space, and obviously you have to be properly warmed up, you have to be, ready for the demands of that event. But I think this really just goes to show that had I gotten emotionally attached to that 60 that I ran, I probably would have run slow in the 150. If I had taken that 7.2 that I ran and put that in my head and say, oh, well, that's what I am. I'm a 7.2 sprinter. That's all I got. What do you think I would run in the 150 if I went into it thinking that? Instead, I shook it off and thought, okay, well, that was just a bad rep. Let that one go, throw that one in the trash, and move on to the next thing. As we go through life, we're going to be challenged, whether it's in your social life, employment, school, you get a speeding ticket, you break your leg because you stepped in a hole in the ground you didn't see, whatever it is. I guarantee that at some point in your life, you're going to be challenged. What makes a person is not the challenges they go through, but it's how they respond to those challenges. Do you get a bad grade on a test, you get a C on a test, and you tell yourself, well, I'm a C student. What do you think that's going to do to your motivation? What do you think that's going to do to your performance on your next tests? If instead you take that test, you get a bad grade, and you think, okay, this doesn't define me. I can be better than this. I know that I'm better than this, and I'm going to do better than this. If you go forward with that mentality, I guarantee you're going to do better on the following tests. Or if it happens to you in a race, you run a bad time that you're not happy with. Well, if I don't emotionally attach myself to that outcome and I just move on from it, move on to the next moment in time and say, all right, that's in the past, now I'm here. Then you can go from running a terrible race to running a personal best like I did. So as you go through life, you got to live in the present moment. And I know it's cliche. Oh, there's Mr. Coyote again. I know it's cliche, but it's true. If you're in this moment right now, then you can work with where you're at. But if you're stuck in the past, you can't control the past. The past already happened. You can't control the future. It hasn't happened yet. The only thing you can control is what you do right now. And one of the only things we can control is how we think about things, what we attach ourselves to, how we shake things off when it doesn't go our way. My message to you guys is, as you get ready for this season, as you're prepping for this season of track, make sure that with the ups and downs, you don't get too attached to any specific outcome. Yes, if you run a personal best, that's great, but it's time to get back to work and keep working toward another one. If you run a poor time, yeah, that sucks, but that doesn't define you as a person. It doesn't define you as an athlete. That's one snapshot of one moment in time, one space on the space-time continuum where you were in that state of readiness at that point in time. But that doesn't dictate where you're going to be 30 minutes from then, 3 weeks from then, 3 months from then, or 3 years from then. So make sure that as you go through the trials and tribulations of life, whether it's in track or it's outside of track, you don't get too attached to those negative outcomes. You don't get too attached to, oh, I need to do this because I need to prove to myself that I'm this or that I'm fast or that I'm smart or whatever. You just got to take wherever you're at, do your best, be disciplined, do the warm-up right so you set yourself up for success. But if it doesn't work out in that race, you still got another one to run. And if that one doesn't work out, you got another practice to work on the things that didn't help you in that race so you can work on them, improve them, and then run a better race the next time. And if you keep that mentality in life, then you're going to be successful, because whatever things you deal with, whatever comes at you, you're going to be able to deal with it and move through it, move on in life, rather than getting stuck in the past, dragged down by outcomes that you don't like. And ultimately, if you live your life in the current present moment, you focus on what you can control, and you shake off the bad experiences, learn what you can, and move on, then you're going to be much more likely to have success as compared to if you were stuck in the past, thinking about all the mistakes you ever made, fearing failure, fearing some future outcome. We don't want any of that. Stay in the present moment, focus on what you can control, do your best to set yourself up for success, and wherever the chips fall at the end of the day, you know that you gave it your best, and the next time you're going to do it again, and you'll probably do better. Thank you guys for watching. This is Cody Bidlow with SprintingWorkouts.com and ATHLETE.X, signing off.